Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Secret Origins of Mint Condition. I am one of your hosts, James. James Gunn's Superman is coming out. It's right around the corner. We thought it would be a good time for this podcast to deep dive on a movie we've spoken about since the beginning of this podcast. The movie that we'll talk about a little bit more that I think has laid the foundation for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, obviously for the DC Cinematic Universe in whatever form it takes. And that is the 1978 Superman the movie, directed by Richard Donner, starring Christopher Reeve. And obviously, to join me, I needed two Superman experts from the planet Krypton, as Marlon Brando likes to say. So joining me, of course, is Joe.
Thank you, James. But I'm from the planet Brooklyn, so Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. And also joining me is Richie.
Oh yeah, and I'm from the planet Port Washington.
Like your planet better.
Born and raised.
I love Brando's like Krypton. Because he was reading those off of cue cards, as I found out doing the deep dive for this.
Cue cards off the baby's diaper.
Yeah.
You name it. He was reading everything off the.
Yeah, which surprisingly, my back when Christopher Reeve was doing some press either around this movie or Superman 2, he was like, He's like, I was surprised that professional like Marlon Brando wasn't prepared on the set as everyone else. He was kind of like a little bit outspoken by Mr. Brando's like.
Well, the late Christopher Reeve was a Juilliard trained actor, so he was going to be coming from a strict adherence to the rules. Brando was anything but that. So
yeah. So anyway, like I had digressed already, but So Joe, obviously you've spoken about this movie, your love for it, when you went to see it. We've kind of heard that backstory. Surprisingly, on both the Star Trek: The Motion Picture episodes, we worked in Superman. But
I think Superman is linked into some of our sports episodes too. If you ask me.
Your love for Superman the movie and kind of your origin story of seeing it has come up, but I still like to get the full version on this episode. But Richie, in all the years I've known you, and we've talked about this movie. This movie's going. Did you see this movie in the theater? What did you think? What are your thoughts when this movie was coming out, up to seeing it for the first time?
I did see it in the theater when it first came out. Irene and I went together, and I was excited because you would believe a man could fly, as the commercials were saying. And yeah, when we went, we were both blown away. Irene particularly liked the musical score, what do you expect from John Williams.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was great at that time, absolutely.
Like you and Joe, you did the whole, George Reeve, Adventures of Superman. That having been your Superman, like, did you have any expectations coming into this movie, or were you just like, show me what you got, like, show me what you got with the new movie?
It was pretty much show me what you got, but you bring up George Reeves. I thought that Christopher was awful young, and I always thought Superman was a little bit more mature and older. So there was a little conflict, but not much, because Christopher, which Reeve are we talking about? Reeve and Reeves.
Chris and George.
Chris and George. Yeah, Chris. He was great. I really, once I got past the age when I first saw him, was like, oh, this guy's a baby, but beyond that, he was terrific. And when I watched it again recently, to me, he was the best part of the movie. Period. And I'm in or out of Clark or Superman, it didn't matter. He was spot on. Anyway, I was very, very happy with the results of the movie. There's certain things when we get into a deeper dive now after seeing it recently, I've got a few bones to pick, but my initial thought walking out of the theater was, wow, this is really good. They finally did a great superhero movie.
I agree. I mean, I rewatched it for this podcast. I definitely saw it once all the way through, but I don't know if I've seen it more than once all the way through, because
really?
Because when it started, I was like, they started with a comic book. And they started with
I forgot all about that.
I thought we just launched right into this John Williams credits and everything, and I was like, wow. I was like, this movie at the time, at 1978, and they're grounding it with the comic book. And I'll get this a little bit more because Joe, I want to just have you tell your origin story with this movie, but this movie just is really grounded in also journalism. Like journalism seems to be like they really make a point for the Daily Planet, and I would say the
Yeah.
newsroom of the Daily Planet is the like that is such a grounded, realistic set. Like it's like
very frenetic.
Agreed.
It's real.
Agreed.
Yeah.
it's real. It gives like such depth to the whole thing. So I don't want to go too much depth. Let's with that we can go into a moment. But Joe, please, tell us the full story of seeing this movie for the first time.
Please cut me off at some point. Premiere date was December 15th, 1978. I wasn't there for the 10 o'clock show, but I was at the Lois Astor Plaza, 44th and Broadway or 45th and Broadway. The theater downstairs, 1,000-seat theater. I was there for the 12 o'clock or the 12:30 showing. So I was there for the second showing on the first day. And the theater was packed. Like you, Rich, I didn't know what to expect because I grew up with George Reeves, right? As we all did. But a year before this film premiered, they were showing shots of him in uniform, but in black and white, all over the city of New York, standing on top of buildings, standing up by the docks, standing in front of monuments. And you got the feeling, oh my God, this guy looks like he stepped off the freaking comic book page. He looks like Superman. But, we still had to know he's very young, as you said. I think he was only 26 when they started the film. So, started filming it. So, I mean, is he going to be okay? And duh. He was more than okay. He was, in every shape, way, and form, literally and figuratively, he was Superman. And even after he stopped playing the character, when he had his terrible accident, he was even more of a Superman. An incredible individual. This film blew me away. I have a few flashbacks, and then we'll start talking about the different things. The budget was $55 million, the most expensive movie since Cleopatra, which was 20 years early, I believe. It made $330 million, which in today's market would be about $272 million. No, excuse me, I got that wrong. That's the cost was 55, which would be 272 million today. I didn't compute the box office, but it would be today.
But Joe, was that cost because they shot these movies back to back? Is that the cost for one movie, or is that the cost for both Superman 1 and 2?
Superman 1 and 2, but there was also more cost they never talked about because when Richard Lester came in, he had to reshoot 40% of the movie to get his name on as director. The film, was the Daily News building on 42nd Street across from the Hyatt Hotel was the Daily Planet building. It was a real newspaper building, right? Let's see. It was nominated for Best Sound, Best Music, Best Film Editing, and it won a Special Achievement Award for Special Effects. Again, duh, of course. And what's really interesting, Brando got $4 million for it, I think not even 6 days' work. And Christopher Reeve got a paltry $250,000.
Wow.
He was a soap opera actor. They weren't going to give much more than that, right? And just one other note, there were other people, obviously, that they wanted to cast before they found Christopher Reeve. You'll know these names. James Caan, James Brolin, Lyle Waggoner, Christopher Walken. I didn't know that until I did my research today.
Wow.
I knew about Nick Nolte. I knew about John Voight. And the most interesting castings decision, Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
Yes.
Really?
Wow. That would have been interesting.
And the casting director is a man by the name of Lynn Steelmaster, who had been in the business for well over 20 years at this point. And I found this cute because as you know, I'm a big Western fan. So he cast Christopher Reeve to play the Man of Steel, classic Superman hero. But 23 years earlier, he cast a man named James Arness to play Marshal Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke. So I kind of thought that was kind of cute, and I wanted to mention that. But yeah, it's we'll get into the specifics in different scenes, but it exceeded all my expectations. I love this film to this day, and I have seen this film and another film that you guys know I love more than 100 times.
Wow.
I think I've seen The Godfather more than Superman the movie because this is a great this is a great film, but The Godfather is the greatest film of all time. So I can't tire of either of these films, but I know I've seen them both at least 100 times, and I did pay 8 times to see this in the theater when it came out between December of 78 until it disappeared the following August of 79.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Well,
That's
Joe,
great.
here's an additional flash fact I have for you. That
Yes.
when Christopher Reeve was first cast, obviously you both commented on how young he was. He also didn't quite have the physique for
No.
Superman. So you know who trained him to have a physique?
Sure. Darth Vader.
Yes, David Prowse.
David Prowse.
David Prowse, the man who was in the Darth Vader suit
Yep.
for the original trilogy.
Really?
He
Yeah,
went from 190 to 225. Yeah.
Wow.
You know that, Rich? Yeah.
and wasn't Christopher Reeve's like roommate Robin Williams, I think, too,
They
right?
Yes.
went to Juilliard.
Yes.
They
Yes.
both graduated Juilliard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a good transition since we're talking about him anyway. We've done, obviously, in this podcast, given lots of love and flowers to, I wish Chris was here to talk about this a little bit more, love and praise to Kevin Conroy's portrayal of Batman, even though he was just the voice. Obviously, Michael Keaton. But I don't know if like we give enough praise to Christopher Reeve's portrayal of the Man of Steel. Obviously, he's my Superman. I know we've talked about many podcasts. You guys balance between George Reeve and Christopher Reeves, but watching this movie again, it like all the things he's doing in every scene, whether it's Clark or Superman, he's doing something, and all the stuff he does. I actually think he's playing three characters. Like I feel like he's playing Superman. Superman in this movie, I know in the comics, Superman is the person he is, but I feel like he puts on even more of a role model role of Superman when he's Superman. Clark is obviously the bumbling guy, and then there's these moments where you get to see he's neither playing the bumbling Clark or the super role model Superman, where he's just Clark Kent, I guess the person he is. And you know, it's like the scene where he's almost going to tell Lois in the apartment. There's obviously the scene at the end when he's devastated like Lois's death, and you know, I know it wasn't Christopher Reeve playing it, but you know, we got to see a little bit of the Clark character in the early Kansas scenes.
That was the actor Jeff East, who was dubbed by Christopher Reeve, by the way.
Yes, and so, but I feel like he's doing this balancing act between three different versions of the same person, and his work as Clark Kent is funny, is like the stuff he's doing, like when he's saying goodbye to people and hello to people who are paying no attention to him at all. You know, all the physical comedy, like when we were talking about All-Star Superman, Richie, you were talking about all the physical comedy that, you know, Frank quietly drew. Like Christopher Reeve was doing all that physical comedy, like getting caught around people, getting stuck into. I mean, I just want to, you know, as much as we praise those Batman actors, Christopher Reeve, I don't. Not that he needs it from us, but he should get all the praise for all the acting he was doing all the time, and every scene he was in, he was doing something.
Yeah, he was a screen presence from the get go, an unknown. They, you know, when they went through all those names I mentioned before, they realized we got to get an unknown. Well, put stars around him: Brando, Hackman, Ned Beatty, people like that. You know, Glenn Ford, who had been in the movies for the 40 years at this point, probably. But we'll put stars around him, and he outshone them all.
Yeah, exactly. He outshone them all. Yeah, I mean, he didn't even get. You know how the titles come out, and it was Brando, Hackman, Superman title, and then Christopher Reeve.
And the second film, it was Hackman, Reeve. He didn't get top billing until Superman 3. Disrespectful, but you know, yeah.
I mean, he seemed like Christopher Reeve. I didn't watch the documentary yet because I haven't prepared myself to watch that documentary.
I have to.
I haven't either. I don't know.
I don't want to cry my eyes out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just think it's going to be. Yeah, go on.
But I feel like he's, like Joe said, he really embodied the role. And even though maybe he didn't get the title billing when he should have, or the payment he should have, I think he really took the role of Superman as like a serious thing that he not just embodied on the screen, but also embodied in his just being a person. And
yes, James, that is, you know, I want to piggyback off something you just said. I wrote a little paragraph here. Chris Reeve makes Kal-El two distinct people, maybe three, as James pointed out, and plays it with earnestness, intelligence, empathy, and a touch of playfulness. And if you remember the scene with the guy climbing up the building, he makes that SOB fall a long way before he catches him. So I thought that was great. You know, and he is a big blue Boy Scout. And there's nothing wrong with that because I was a Boy Scout. And he's also a Boy Scout because he gets Frisky out of the tree, the cat, right? But he's a leader and inspiration to all people who have the desire to do the right thing. And that ultimately is what Superman is all about. And Christopher Reeve brought that to life in beautiful Technicolor on a Panavision screen with Dolby stereo. And it's just, the man was a genius. at his craft. And another thing I didn't mention, one of the flashbacks I just remembered, he did take it very seriously, James. And when they put the costume on him for the first time, he noticed something wrong with it.
Yeah.
Something that crept up in the Brandon Routh Superman. There was an S on the belt where the belt buckle was. And Reeves said, no, that's not in the comic books. It's a red buckle. It's a round buckle in yellow. You got to get rid of that and make it comic book accurate. And then, of course, decades later, it shows up on Brandon Routh's, belt. But Reeve was that much into it that he knew what the costume looked like and had to look like on the screen.
Did he also something about the cape? The S on the back of the cape?
I don't. I know that it was there because this is before CGI, right? And we've heard over the years until now, James Gunn, thank you, James Gunn, that it was too difficult to animate the CGI the S on the flowing cape, which is why, Cavill didn't have it, which is why Tyler Hoechlin didn't have it on the back of his cape. Dean Cain did, but that was TV again, so there was no it was a tiny bit of CGI maybe in Lois and Clark, but yeah, that whole thing, red trunks, S on the back of the cape, that's always been a back and forth when they make these films.
That suit, it's a comic accurate suit,
Yep.
and nobody it's great because it was in this day and age, they're going more comic accurate, but they always have to heighten it a little bit with a modern.
Yeah.
And it's drawn he looks like a Kurt Swan drawing come to life.
Certainly does.
He
That's
looks
perfect, James. That is perfect.
He looked like Kurt Swan drew it, and he just came right out of the page. And I think it only works and is not silly because of the gravitas of him as an actor, and going back to what I was saying earlier, the groundedness of Metropolis. Wish Chris was here because we just talked about this on our Daredevil episode. He and Keith, they were saying the Metropolis is a character, and the newsroom is everything around Superman is grounded. So when you see him in that suit, it doesn't look silly.
No, not at all. It was spandex, I would imagine, right? Right, Richard, it was probably spandex, right?
I guess so. I don't jump around.
It's the 70s, yeah. Spandex.
Yeah. You're right, though. It just didn't seem out of place at all when he came out in costume. It's one of the characters on the street was like, oh, cool.
Oh, the I don't want to use that word. We'll just say the gentleman who employs ladies in his Cadillac. Hey, Jim, that's a bad outfit. Excuse me. Can't use the other word. This is a family program.
Yeah, but I feel like and to the story we just told about Christopher Reeve knowing the belt is different and his accuracy to the character. I'll give some shout out to the new Superman film, James Cornsweet, who said he's the one who said we should have the red trunks to James Gunn because they were not going to do the red trunks.
Yeah, Gunn was struggling with it again. Yes, he was.
And he said, no, he's got to have the trunks because it's one, Superman, but two, his logic was it makes him approachable because to kids, if you have the trunks, it's kind of like he's a wrestler and kids know wrestling and they wouldn't be afraid of Superman if they see him in the red trunks and in that outfit. That was sort of his rationale for the trunks, and James Gunn went with it. But originally they were going to do no trunks in the new Superman.
Well, I'm glad they went this route because, as you know, I don't like the Cavill suit. It's a onesie. It looks like a wetsuit. So Cavill was great as Superman, but the suit was horrible. I know there are people out there going to say, Joe, you're an idiot, but no, I didn't like that suit at all. My least favorite Superman suit of all time, the Cavill suit.
It was too much.
Too much blue.
It was too much blue, but also it was just too much embroidery and decoration and stuff on it. Again, I think we've 20 minutes about how much we love this movie. So I'm just going to say the Lex Luthor stuff is not as strong as the rest of the, it's sort of like an afterthought, watching this movie, Lex Luthor shows up and, Gene Hackman's still doing great. And I honestly don't mind a Lex Luthor with a head of hair, but everything else that was leading up to everything from Krypton or Krypton. Sorry,
Hey, you did it.
all the way up to his first night as Superman. I think it's a fantastic, it's when we introduce actually Lex Luthor, I'm I don't know about this. This is.
It becomes a comic book at that point. I know what you mean, James. I wrote down it's 3 movies. Krypton is almost all black and white except for the red sun. And the only character that the only color is the baby wrapped in the blue and red
Yeah.
blankets, right?
Yeah.
Everything else is shades of white and gray. A
Yeah. How do they
Smallville.
make it glow like that? I
Oh,
mean,
those costumes had some type of built-in. They put multiple lights on them or something like that. And you couldn't touch them. If you did, it would make a mess. Yeah, I should have done a little more research on that.
well,
Smallville is obviously Norman Rockwell. It's all earth tones, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, as I put right here, when you get to Metropolis, it's a 4-color comic book explosion. It's color everywhere, including in the characters themselves, i.e., Luthor, Miss Teschmacher, and Otis. Why does this brilliant man surround himself with these two stupid people, right?
That's what I was asking. I also, again, I don't want to appear like I disliked it. I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's a tone shift, which is fine. I think it still holds up. Obviously, it's Gene Hackman and Ned Beatty, two of the finest actors that we have at the time, and perhaps in film history altogether. But I never really enjoyed that take of Lex Luthor, and it's probably a product of when I grew up. Like, I grew up with more Superman the animated series with the Lex Luthor who was already the businessman, the intelligent. Like, this is not the scheme that he has is not the scheme of the Lex Luthor that I had come to know at the time when I'm growing up. Like, my Lex Luthor was a shrewd businessman and sometimes a scientist. Mm-hmm. And this Lex Luthor, I know they showed he's intelligent and stuff. I didn't feel like the character was the way I like, and that's me. Like,
Luthor, Brando's, and Luthor, they both threw me off this time around. Okay, I feel the same way you do, James. It was just Lex just didn't seem Lex to me. I mean, I even back in the day, but I don't really care. When the movie came out, it was fine, and I don't know why they waited till the very end of the movie to rip off his hair and be proud of his baldness. I don't get that either. But his parts, yeah, I don't know, he wasn't.
We saw the wigs throughout the film, including when Otis was making up the bed. Yes. There was one under the pillow, and he gasped. So we knew. I mean, people in the theater, Superman, especially Superman fans, knew that he's bald. He's just wearing a wig, and Hackman did not want to shave his head. It's just that simple. He didn't want to shave his head.
And that's fine. I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to shave my head either. Although if I was getting paid a couple $1 million, hair grows back. Maybe his wouldn't. I don't know.
Michael Rosenbaum shaved his head for 7 years.
7 years, yeah. But I will say, I mean, yeah. So I didn't like. I actually like Luthor's plot better in Superman 2 because at least it seemed like he goes to the Fortress of Solitude. He aligns himself. Like, it seemed a little bit more like Lex Luthor in Superman 2. But again, his plot in this movie, I'm like, okay, I thought it could be more. But again, I'm nitpicking. I don't want to seem like I didn't enjoy the ride of the movie. But if we're looking back at it 40 plus years later, there's a few parts of the movie where I think could have been written just a little bit better because the other stuff, like Joe, like his time with Lois Lane and that we were talking about earlier, like everything else is so good except the Luthor stuff just doesn't line up with the rest of the movie.
I realized they didn't want to do gray suit criminal scientist Luthor, so they made him this kind of quasi scientist who has one of Luthor's lairs. We know that Rich from the Silver Age, Luthor had many different lairs all over the world, especially in Metropolis, hiding out in all lined with lights so we couldn't see him. So yeah, this is the lair 200 feet below Grand Central Station, Metropolis Central Station, whatever. Is typical Luthor, but this Luthor is not the Luthor in the comic books, obviously. And I don't know if that was a choice, the way that Gene Hackman wanted to play in that way. I'm sure it was written mostly that way. There's a sly evilness to him, even though he's having fun. And, something that you don't realize, and I just realized it again for the 100th time. I forgot between 75 and 99 watching it. But Luthor and Otis and Miss Teschmacher, while they seem to be, not the brightest bulbs in the drawer, they're murderers. They killed 2 people to get that rock, right, in Addis Ababa. And Luthor kills that poor cop when he pushes him in front of the New Haven line. They're not exactly nice people. even though we're laughing at. And here's the big thing: we laugh with them and at them, but we never laugh at Superman.
No,
and that's the point. I think of the entire film.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
I mean, the comic relief, I guess, all the jokes I feel like still land with them. Like, oh, Otis, take the man's cape. I don't think he wants
look,
to.
Christopher Reeve gives Otis in that scene is just oh my God, if looks could kill.
Yeah.
And, laser beams coming out of your eyes. Well, maybe. Yeah, that's a great. And if you notice, if you got to watch it again, when you've seen the movie 100 times, when Superman is pushing on the door to Luthor's lair, he's sitting back expecting Superman. He thinks he's all high and mighty, right, Mr. Luthor? When the door crashes to the floor, there's a slight flinch that Gene Hackman makes. Like, this guy's really powerful. And if you go back and watch it, you'll see it. It's there for a split second, but you can see the worry on his face and the awe at the same time at how powerful this guy is. And maybe I've got myself into more than I can more than I can shoot. So Gene Hackman, obviously a great actor. I wonder how much Christopher Reeve learned from him in this film. I'm sure he didn't learn anything from Brando because Brando doesn't share. Never did.
Well, they also didn't have any screen time together, so I think Brando was true. Yeah, they had zero screen time together. So,
yeah.
But.
Well, yeah, even those when he was in the Fortress of Solitude, didn't he have some sort of conversation with him?
Well, that's when he puts the crystal into the if he builds the fortress or the crystal builds the fortress, he sticks the crystal in and Jor-El appears to him. In the let's see now, in the Donner cut of Superman 2, Christopher Reeve and Brando do have a scene together.
Oh, okay, all right.
And if that was filmed by Donner, not by Richard Lester. So
okay.
That's survived, and that's only in the Donner cut, though. It's not.
I mean, listen, I'd like to hope that I don't know if it happened, given what we've said about Brando at that time in his career. You'd hope that when he, most actors, if you're interacting with them just as the voice, they're off screen giving you a line, reading the lines so you can act with it. I don't know if Brando was doing that in the Fortress of Solitude scenes where he's interacting.
He was reading the lines. I'd like to find out if he even rehearsed. I'm sure he rehearsed. I'm sure because you have to block the scenes. Adrian could probably tell us more about this. When you put these things together, you storyboard the film, and then you rehearse. But you have to block the scenes. People have to hit their marks, right? As they're moving around the soundstage. So I'm sure there was some of that going on with Brando and interacting with the other actors. But when it came to the filming, he refused to. He wanted the lines there. And Brando did not want to play Jor-El at first as a humanoid, as a human Kryptonian. So why can't he be a bagel or a suitcase? He's an alien. So Richard Donner said, no, wait a minute. Now you go, come on. He's Superman's father, and Superman looks like a man, right? A man from Earth. So, and Superman's mother looks like him. So no, he has to look like a man. You can't play him as a bagel or a suitcase. You have to play him as a quote unquote a humanoid, a man. So yeah, he was a bit of a problem on the set.
Yeah. Well, he did absolutely zero for me. Even watching it the first time, the character you think is more compassionate, and he just seemed like the pompous ass to me. Arrogant. He didn't come across to me as a compassionate human being, which I think Jor-El was.
Oh yeah. I'll agree with that 90%, Rich, but there is one scene in the film after they place the baby into the starship, the camera starts panning around very slowly.
Right.
And he's talking to the baby, how you're going to, I bequeath you this, my son. You're going to carry me inside of you all the days of your lives. The father becomes the son, and the son becomes the father. I thought that was a very touching scene. And that's the only time in the film, and he's not in the film much, right?
Right.
It's the only time where you see that this man does have a soul. Otherwise... Yes. He is just a cold, bland scientist.
Right. Yes, yeah. And I do remember that part of the scene when he's about to take off for Earth.
Yeah.
And but you're right. That's 10% maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, but that's my best. That's his best scene in the movie. Was that speech? I thought that's what it was. Was very moving and. I was rewatching it I was watching this movie with Karen, and she was noticing how like the mom and dad had opposite things they were focused on in that dialogue when they were saying, like,
Yeah.
he's going to be alone is what the mom said, but he'll be strong. He'll be an
Yeah.
outsider, but he'll be there.
Yeah.
Like, it was very, like, I know it's like, it's all Shakespearean at that point, that scene. It's very,
Yeah, until we get to the scene where he's basically bequeathing his knowledge to his son. There's a lot of exposition in that scene because they have to tell us how strong and different he's going to be when he gets to Earth. So, yeah, I guess it is a little bit Shakespearean at that.
yeah, no, I just mean like the writing is very at that moment, which I'm not saying is bad. I'm just saying it's very, it is. I mean, it's poetic. It's poetically written, and he's Superman, and all the characters in his life are larger than life. And so but I still think it's a great. That whole scene is the best scene on Krypton, or between the two. I do have to ask you too, because like I don't remember, and this came out pre-Crisis, obviously pre-Man of Steel. When you guys saw the planet Krypton like that, is that how it was depicted in the comics at the time?
No.
As the cold world?
No.
So was this like, were you
It's very jarring.
Yeah, I was gonna say, were you guys bumping up into that right away, or are you like?
I bumped up into it. Yes, I did. I at first I didn't like it. Krypton was always rich, like a Flash Gordon type of planet, right?
Yes,
With the tall
yes.
buildings with the minarets
Perfect.
on them, and
Yeah.
bright colors. This wonderful, beautiful civilization, and here we get this very cold, sterile, colorless civilization. And that was a choice that the filmmakers made. I think they wanted to make that choice because I think they're, I'm now reaching here, but in my head canon, it was almost like Krypton deserved to be blown to smithereens because these were a race of cold people, and the only one that had a heart and empathy was Baby Kal-El. That's why destiny chose him to survive amongst all those people on that planet. We can't ask Richard Donner now. I don't even know if Tom Mankiewicz, the real writer of the film, he was listed as creative consultant, but he was the writer of the film. I don't know if he's still around. Not too many people left from this film, by the way.
Yeah,
there's a handful. But yeah, that's I bumped up against the cold, sterile Krypton.
Yeah. I wasn't a big fan. A lot of these big rooms, empty. There's nothing to it. There's no life. I mean, it looked like it was all under ice and.
Crystal, I think that was intentional. I think that's what the writers and the director were going for. There's that scene where after he is rebuffed by the entire council, they leave, right? He says, I'm not going to leave Krypton. He's standing there alone to the right, stage right, and you see that spinning thing going around, the thing that had the criminals trapped in. We later learn in Superman 2 that's a teleportation device. And you can see the back is a matte painting, and it's very stark. There's just shades of gray and white, and he's the only light thing in there because he's wearing that white suit. I paused that when I was watching it this morning, and I always like that scene. But I think it's a foreboding scene because it tells you that this is a very colorless, sterile planet. And, did they deserve their fate? I don't know, but,
There was the thought was going to, so they deserved what they got. It's going on in my head.
That's what I got when I saw the film the first time. Yeah, these people are cold, man. The hell with them. Long as Kal-El got off the planet. I don't care about the rest of them.
Well, I guess you could, like, Joe, we have no idea, but maybe it was like you're not thinking about the whole time that Superman is like an orphan. Like you don't really think about this movie. Like he says it to Lois Lane in the interview, I come from a planet,
In a different galaxy, yeah.
Galaxy, but you really don't focus on the fact that he's an alien and stuff. Like, I mean, it's hinted at, but it's not really the focus of the movie that he's.
Well, he doesn't know that until after Jonathan dies and the spaceship the green crystal is calling to him that night, wakes him up, right?
Yeah.
And he gets the urge to go into the barn. He lifts we don't know if he's ever seen the ship before. I don't think he has. I think that's the first time he's seen it. Maybe the father hid it from him.
I was going to ask you guys too. Like, is that the first time he's?
What do you think, Rich? Is that the first time he saw the ship?
Honestly, the second time. So when I saw it a week ago, I got the impression it wasn't necessarily the first time he saw it. I think that was my impression. I thought when I originally saw it the other 2 or 3 times, I did not see it 100 times. That. It was the first time he saw the ship, but for whatever reason, I didn't get that feeling this time around. Don't ask me why. But he just went in and found it himself.
Well, he's awakened at night. The radio is obviously
Oh, the ship
is
was
that
calling him.
yeah. You hear that kind of like
Yeah,
creepy music
yeah,
that you would hear in 50 science fiction films. And I just thought that he does say in Superman 2 when he's holding up the green crystal, he goes, actually, it built this place, meaning this fortress. And he goes, this called to me. So he does say that in Superman 2. Now, again, you could have maybe gotten that a little bit better across in this movie. But you see the look on his face. He stares out the window at the barn. So I thought when I saw it the first time, that thing is calling to him because we knew that green crystal was going to be the essence of Jor-El. Because he said, I'm putting everything I have into the ship.
Now, okay, did Jonathan or Martha ever, Ma or Pa, Ken ever? They knew that he had superpowers. Clark knew he had superpowers and he couldn't use them. He wanted to play football. I can do
Right?
better. I can do anything, and they kept him low key. Did they ever say anything about how they found him? I don't. I don't recall.
I don't know. I mean, he said when we found you, we had to keep you hidden because we thought people would come from miles around and take you away.
Right.
But I don't. Does he? Did they tell
Yeah.
him they found him in the ship? Did they? Even in the very first episode of The Adventures of Superman, the George Reeves show, which was only 25 minutes long, there's a scene between baby Kal-El and 25-year-old Clark before he leaves the farm, where 12-year-old Clark is telling his mother, "We're playing ball today. The ball got lost. I saw it behind a rock."
Right.
She goes, "You have good eyes." He goes, "No, Ma, I saw it through the rock. Like my eyes are an X-ray machine. Why am I different from all the other boys?" And she says she does tell him that they found him. Well, the narrator tells you this, that they found him in a rocket ship. Silver and Bronze Age Superman, when he found out he was from Krypton, there's numerous stories in the comics that deal with that. I don't think they wanted to deal with that too much because they had a lot to get into this film, obviously. So yeah, it's up. I think it's open for interpretation if they told him or not.
Well, we've focused on a lot, but I feel like we should like maybe circle back to the Daily Plan a little bit, especially Lois Lane. We
Oh
haven't talked
yeah.
about Lois Lane,
Oh, oh.
or Jimmy or Perry, who all great. But I know Joe, your favorite Lois Lane is Terry Hatcher. But what did you both think of Margot Kidder's Lois
She's
Lane?
my second favorite Lois Lane. Yeah, it's Terry Hatcher, Margot Kidder, Phyllis Coates, and Noel Neal, and the rest of them they're just actresses playing the part. They're not Lois Lanes. Although Bitsy Tulloch did a good job in 4 Years of Superman and Lois, got to give her credit. But I thought she was the scene, the interview scene on how does it? First of all, how does a reporter afford a penthouse?
That's what I said too. She must have been like, well, maybe
Wow.
Sam Lane got really paid well by the military. Or
That's the only, it's not mentioned in the film. Yeah, we know she's the top reporter of the Daily Planet, but in 1978, top reporter on a newspaper was probably making maybe 35,000 a year, maybe, which would be great
Seriously?
money. Maybe not even that, right? Maybe $25,000 a year, right?
No, I'm amazed that they made that little.
Rich,
Really? I have no
1978.
idea.
I mean, what was I making? I was making $6 an hour part time, but that's because my boss liked me. Got 2 raises in 1 week.
Okay,
But
78.
yeah, so yeah, but there's that scene where she's interviewing him, and the Jeffrey Unsworth, the man who was the cinematographer who died, never saw the film completed. Didn't see it on the screen because he died after the film was completed. He said we have to light her perfectly. She's lit so well in that scene, and she's just so gorgeous and cute. I love Margot Kidder. She was the perfect foil to Christopher Reeve in that film. But yeah, she's Lois Lane. She's spunky and tough. Yeah, she needs. Well, I mean, hell, anybody would need help if they're falling off a building in a helicopter, man or woman. So, but she doesn't back down to anybody. And the scene in the alleyway, right? She ain't gonna give
Yeah.
that hot pocketbook to that guy. And she kicks him, and Clark catches the bullet. But yeah, that's Lois Lane. Yeah.
Rich, what did you think like of your Lois Lanes? Did you like her as the character?
I did. Did she grew on me? Of course, the scene where the helicopter, she's falling out and Superman grabs her and the helicopter. Who's got don't worry, I've got you. You know, huh?
Yes.
You
Don't worry, Miss, I've
got
got
me.
you. Who's
Who's
got me?
got
Who's got
you?
you? Who's got you? Great line. Great line.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah,
not ad libbed. You know, people try to say that line was ad lib. No, that was in the script. Yeah.
right. Yeah, but no, I mean, but so she was the third Lois Lane that we knew at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So she was right up there with them. I had no problem with her as Lois Lane.
Now, James, you're a fan of Superman the Animated Adventures, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we meet Lois Lane, when Clark meets Lois Lane in that great frenetic scene in Perry's office with the her shaking the bottle and Jimmy get, why am I paying you $40 a week when you
Again, Christopher Reeve doing all the work.
Christopher's doing all the heavy work there, man. You know, Chief, this is gonna be an article, Making Sense of Senseless Killings by Lois Lane. He's trying to open a bottle. She's wearing a blue blouse and a white skirt. Well, what did Lois Lane wear in most of the episodes of the animated?
Same outfit, right?
Same outfit.
Same
Once in a while, they gave her a red top. Otherwise, they based the Lois Lane, who was voiced by the great actress Dana Delaney. They based her look for that scene from in the cartoon from the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's a great. I mean, the whole thing is a
Wow.
great scene, and
It's great.
like again,
what's going on in that scene?
just to again going back to Christopher Reeve's chops as an actor, the way he delivers these like semi corny lines so sincerely is like, oh Lois, why would anyone like want to make somebody look like a complete fool when they're first meeting? Like
Stranger looking like a complete fool. Yeah, I mean, I'll take that, Kent. Mr. Kent, a towel. And don't call me Sugar, because he's been calling Chief Jimmy all this time, and he gets it screwed up. Jackie Cooper, Rich will know this from was one of the Little Rascals way back in the 30s and 40s, 30s.
Yeah.
So, and a great director, directed many episodes of MASH.
Yep.
And a very good actor too. Yeah, that's a wild scene. It's just totally frenetic. There's so much going on, and it gives you, like you said earlier, James, it gives you that sense of a real newsroom, because these people don't have time to chit chat, especially the editor. You know, get these people out of my office. I got to get to work. I got to get this paper out.
And one of the videos I watched in preparation for this, I didn't realize it because now it's all the things that they're doing in shows now are the wonder. But that scene where before she goes up to the helicopter for his first night out, when they leave Perry's office and go to the elevator, that's all a one scene where he's like, they're walking through the newsroom, and then his coat gets caught in the ladies' room, and then they go to the elevator. That's all like one take, which I didn't realize until watching it. And there's like so much going on.
Yeah, she's got letters to mail. She's telling him, I got to meet you know who at the airport. Well, don't you ever slow down? What, like my sister? Three kids, the cat in the door, whatever. Yeah, I would go crazy. By the way, the scene with the coat in the door, they didn't get that on the first try. I saw a little video about that. It took them about 3 or 4 times to get that right, to get that coat stuck in the door.
Well, they had to do that take again though, because they were doing that as a oner. Yeah. There's no cuts, so they had to like keep doing it until like Christopher Reeve had to time it with her shutting the door, and like it's just like you know, again, these little nuances of like all the work that's going on in these.
Yeah. Now you just, I'm glad you mentioned a wonder, James, because there's a scene in the film. I wrote it down. Where the hell is it? Yes. In every Richard Donner movie, there's a scene that's going to boggle the mind of the audience. How did he do that? It's a long scene without a cut, and the scene after Superman, after they come back flying, he drops her off on her roof, and he walks away from her, and he turns around and says, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "Yeah," and then he just flies off. And she starts walking stage left, which I guess would be stage right for her, and she's walking. She goes, "What a Superman," which is the first time Lois Lane ever named him Superman, and they've carried that on since then, right? And then she's walking towards her apartment, and you hear a knock on the door, and it's Clark. And she opens the door, and it's Clark. There's no cut there. How did they? Christopher Reeve could not have jumped off the balcony on wires and gotten to the other side of the stage and changed into his Clark Kent clothes. Well, if you look closely, the scene of Superman after he says, "Are you okay?" That's film. That was filmed, and she's looking at a screen. She's reacting to a screen of him leaving, and he flies off. So, you know, he was dressed as Clark when she opened that door, because those scenes did not happen together at the same time, and yet there's no cut there.
Wow.
It's brilliant filmmaking. This is the man who gave us The Omen and the Lethal Weapon movies, right?
Yes.
Well,
this is the, kind of going back into what I was saying in the beginning, this movie is the foundation for what we know as comic book movies these days. It was because, was it Laura Schuler Donner was the executive producer on the X-Men movies, and her assistant was Mr. Kevin Feige, who went on to do all of that. So, like, this is like starts like that whole chain where everyone's involved in the current day big comic book pictures.
And Jeff Johns, comic book writer, former creative officer, chief officer of DC Comics, now heading the Ghost Machine line Image Comics. As a young man, he worked for Richard Donner.
Wow.
Wow. Live and learn. I'm sitting back here going, wow. Oh, wow, really? Oh, my gosh.
Two other Superman, I wouldn't call them tropes, but two other things that have lasted. The Crystalline Fortress, no matter where we see, even Superman and Lois, wherever you see it, it's Crystalline Fortress now. And Smallville, thank you. And also, I guess the animated adventures, but also the S on Brando's chest. Everybody on Krypton wore their family insignia. So finally, the S doesn't mean Superman until Lois coins that name. That's really the House of L, which then later on becomes the symbol for hope. So now it's, either the symbol for hope or the House of L, but that's the first time they use that. And I thought that was a brilliant piece of filmmaking, or just an idea for the film.
Well, John Byrne, again, I haven't read it in a while. I've read it more than recently, but I can't remember. John Byrne took that version of Krypton into his comic book, right?
Yes, he did. It was very sterile.
When he rebooted after Crisis, right? So that's where it gets, I guess, its official introduction into the DC comic book universe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah. He said he didn't want to do a Flash Gordon version of Krypton. He wanted to do something different, and the movie was his inspiration.
I guess, obviously the popularity of this movie, like, they obviously took their nods going forward for Superman in the comic books a lot from what this movie gave, and some of the depictions of him, especially in that Man of Steel run, come from this movie.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of later versions took from this. Dean Cain has said numerous times that he based his Superman on Christopher Reeve. His Clark was different because his Clark wasn't bumbling. His Clark was more like a George Reeves Clark Kent, a guy who was, very sure of himself. But he said, no, as far as Superman goes, I studied the films. I wanted to be his close, but he couldn't because he didn't have the stature of Christopher Reeve. If you ever look closely, he's got heels like this, Dean Cain, on his boots.
Oh, really?
He's only 5'11". Christopher Reeve was 6'4". There's another aspect of this film I'd like to bring up, and that's the religious aspect, which we saw in Man of Steel, by the way. Who's the director of Man of Steel again?
Zack Snyder.
Thank you. He talked about that, or he showed that in the film. When Jor-El is talking to his son when they're on that 12-year hike through the galaxy, so to speak, he says they wish to be a good people. They only lack the light to show them the way. For this reason, above all else, I send them you, my only son. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah. Well, so was the speech we were talking about earlier when he said, "My eyes will be through your eyes." Like, it was very, I felt it was very religious undertones for the whole speech.
Superman is seen as a Christ-like figure in a lot of movies. In Superman Returns, after he carries the Kryptonite island to space, which is impossible, but he did it anyway. He falls back to Earth, and there's that scene showing Brandon Routh falling back to Earth and his wine-colored costume, because it was more of a dark red. Colors were muted in Superman Returns. Very Christ-like. His arms are spread out. He looks like he's being crucified as he's falling to Earth. And you got to remember that Superman. The whole Superman story is basically the story of Moses. Moses was put in the river, like the Nile, I think, by his mother in a little basket, and then Pharaoh's wife found him, or
yes, I think. Yeah.
So, it's there, but it's part of the mythos. But it's done so well that it doesn't beat you over the head with it, and it's just part of the whole background of the film.
So the thing I want to touch on, because we're chronologically also getting towards the end of the film. So I heard Superman, when he's going back in time, he's not actually turning the Earth back, is what I read. Like, that's the only way they could, like, I guess, depict it, which wasn't a great depiction. It's actually just showing him kind of like in Star Trek, he's building up enough speed to actually go back in time, but he's not actually
Shot,
spinning.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's not actually spinning the Earth backwards.
No, because that would destroy the entire planet.
Right. So, but I think it gets obviously lost in pop culture now. Like when Superman spin the Earth backwards, like to go backwards in time, which I didn't realize until I dubbed him. It's like no, he's flying so fast, he's going backwards in time.
Yeah, when I first saw the film, I thought he was actually reversing the rotation of the Earth, and then a few years later, I realized, wait, no, that's no, he can't do that.
He's pulling a Star Trek.
He's pulling a Star Trek. Yeah, no, There are people who say, well, if he went back in time, why didn't he pick up Lois Lane's car before the ground opened up underneath him? Because when he goes back in time, she's there, she's alive again. So apparently, I guess he must have done something going back in time where the earthquake still happens, but it doesn't reach her.
I don't know. That's where it kind of like
yes, it gets fuzzy there.
Not to nitpick here with time travel, but like I was trying to figure out. I was like, so he went back. He didn't go back to stop Luthor from detonating the bombs.
Yeah, but he went back.
He went back and he went back and got Lois or stopped the earthquake before her car. Like I at a certain point I was like, we'll just forget.
Yeah, you just go with it. You got to go with it.
I'm not sure what he did or didn't do, but but he did save Lois Lane somehow.
Yeah.
Time travel is always a problem with.
It is a problem. And that was not the original ending of the movie, by the way. The time travel was going to be the end of Superman 2. The original ending was going to be him carrying the missiles into space, them exploding, and it was going to end with people thinking that Superman had died in space. And see us next year for Superman 2, for the sequel. But the movie was getting close. It missed its summer release date. You got to get it out by the end of the year. You got to finish this film. Take whatever you need from Superman 2, put it in here. There's all that film footage already, and get this movie finished and out. That's why they did the time travel at the end of Superman 1.
I never have a problem with it.
No, I had no problem with it at all.
I mean, he went back in time and ahead in time all the time. I mean,
I have a cousin. He's since passed away. My cousin John, and I remember we were discussing it once. It was like after I'd read it in the family, seen the film. He goes, "That was pretty good, but there's one stupid thing in the entire film." What's that, John? Well, it's ridiculous that when he replaces his body with the rail so the train can go over him. That's just dumb. As opposed to, I don't know, picking up the crust of the earth. Doing other super stuff. I mean, building your own dam to stop a flood. I mean, really? I thought the scene where that's right out of the comic books when he replaces his body with the rail. I thought that was so freaking cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Had no problem with that.
I mean, again, I think it speaks to Christopher Reeve, it speaks to Richard Donner, and it speaks to like the grounded reality in which the world they created, that when he does these comic book things, at least to me, I didn't bump up against it. I'm like, yeah, of course. He's gonna pick up the rail and he's gonna be the other rail. Or he's gonna be the engine for Air Force One.
Yes, I forgot that. Thank you. I forgot that.
Yeah.
Well, and the word I've often used in these podcasts, not only Brilliant Superman, but to Star Trek many times, the word that Richard Donner coined many times, verisimilitude. It has to make sense within the world you're presenting. If you can make all this incredible stuff, all this science fiction, comic booky stuff seem real in the context of your story to the audience, then you've achieved your purpose. And they obviously did. I
get my nitpicks, but overall, like I don't really bump up with a lot of like what they did, because they did so much homework in making the things that were supposed to be believable and grounded.
The set dressers, whoever they were, you talked about the Daily Planet office, but Luthor's lair, there's all those books lying around. There's all this garbage over here, and this other, obviously there's books everywhere. There, you can see the cobwebs on the books when he's reaching for the National Geographic M, and he slides the ladder over. And when Miss Teschmacher's hand comes over that statue, because Superman is almost drowning in the indoor pond or lake, whatever you want to call it, you can again see the cobwebs on the statues. There was an attention to detail that is just amazing for this film. It's you got to give all these people involved in this film incredible amount of credit. Yeah, there's one scene, the scene where he's chasing the missile. That he's coming from the east, and yet the Army missile is coming from the west, heading east, and yet Superman is behind the missile. Well, how did that happen? He should be in front of it. Well, there's a scene in the film, if you watch the 3-hour TV cut, where Superman's flying towards the Army missile that's headed towards Hackensack, where Miss Teschmacher's mother lives, and he stops in midair to try to catch the missile. But if you remember, John Ratzenberger, aka Cliff Clavin, said that they had the new low level avoidance system. So the missile goes around him, and then he takes off after the missile again, heading east. So, there's things like that. People have nitpicked about that, but they filmed that. But unfortunately, when the missile goes around him, something must have happened because he gets blurry for a second. And you can't, I guess they said, no, we can't put this on the screen. It doesn't look good. But it's in the extended cut, which I've probably seen about 50 times.
Can I just say one more? Like one of the, just because you were talking about Luthor's layer, like the other joke that like landed with me, because it shows like Luthor is just trying to be so patient, is when he's like, next time, Otis, when you bring me my robe, wait until I get out of the pool.
I said this when we started, James, before we started off here. I mean, this movie's intentionally funny. Supposedly Donna called in Mankiewicz to clean up the Puzo, Benton, and Newman script because they had it really campy. It was going to be like Batman '66, but they knew enough to leave some of that humor in. And when you got Ned Beatty, man, come on, he's a natural for this stuff. He has a great range in acting. You had to play him off of Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it doesn't make sense that Luthor would tolerate such buffoonery. But like him and Ned Beatty were really good together. They were really the three of them were, but like especially Ned Beatty and the scenes they did together. He's strangling him in the ambulance, and Miss Teschmacher's trying to grab the wheel.
You want to see a long arm, Otis? I'll show you a long arm. And of course the scene when he's explaining his plot, right, to knock California into the sea. Hello, New West Coast, my West Coast. That's a great scene because Otis puts down Otisburg, and Luthor gets really pissed. Otisburg? It's a little bitty place. Otisburg? Miss Teschmacher has her own place. Otisburg? And if you notice, what's his name? Otis goes around to the other side, and Superman, and Otis is trying to puff his chest out to look like Superman. Yeah. Again, these actors are so good because I don't even know if that's in the direction or not. Maybe it was, but there's so much going on in all these scenes that it's just a dialogue moving the plot along. It's the physicality of all these actors that they got to play these parts.
Yeah.
Just amazing. Yeah.
Well, before we wrap it up, any final thoughts, Richie? Any final thoughts about Superman the movie?
I got to watch it again. A lot of the things, though, that you brought up, those little, I noticed. Even when when Otis was bringing the robe into the pool, I'm going, really?
Really? He's an idiot.
The pool? And then Luthor says something about it. It's like, okay. But I just wasn't expecting Luthor to say anything, and it was like, to me, I guess I was nitpicking thought when I saw him going into the water. Gene Hackman or Luthor didn't skip a beat.
No, he's too good an actor. He was too good an actor to skip a beat. James, I got some props. I got this, which came out, I guess, before the film. It did come out before the film.
Was it the magazine?
Oh, yeah.
I had that.
Yeah.
And 2 days after, on Sunday, December 17th, the Daily News, Sunday News, had this.
I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't have a bag, but it's starting to fall apart. I don't find a bag big enough for this.
That almost looks like a prop that should be in the movie.
That's the scene after he breaks out of the lair and he's headed up towards the camera and he's headed to stop the missiles. Yeah. But I have more stuff too, but I don't want to, bore you.
No, you can bore us.
No, that's back in the room. I can't get that. But, yeah.
And I couldn't find, I've never seen one out in the wild, just on look, but the McFarlane Toys did a Christopher Reeve Superman figure recently that looks.
I've seen that.
Looks like him, and he comes with like a little Fortress of Solitude display
really?
stand and everything. Yeah,
I got a bunch of Superman action figures, but none of them look like Christopher Reeve. But I do have one that looks like George Reeves. So yeah, bought it off of Richie, by the way, when he had the store.
Well, if you see the McFarlane one out in the wild, it looks pretty good. I was like, wow. I was wondering if he was going to do it, and he did do it before.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a statue of. I think it was Gary Frank's version of Christopher Reeves with the Daily Planet globe carrying Lois.
Oh, that's cool.
I've seen that statue. Is that in your man cave?
Yeah. And he looks, it's Christopher Reeve like for sure.
Oh well, if when Jeff Johns and Gary Frank did Superman Secret Origin right before DC decided to trash everything with the New 52, if you look at that book you don't have to look at it closely, just look at the figures. Clark and Superman are drawn like Christopher Reeve,
Yeah,
and Lois
absolutely.
is drawn like Margot Kidder. Yeah, it's great. Gary Frank's a great artist, but yes.
All right, listening audience. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode, I hope you have your thoughts about Superman, which you can share however you're listening to it, and hope this got you ready to see the new Superman movie, or at the very least, maybe got you thinking about going back to watch the movie that we just talked about. And if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, which I can't imagine if you're listening to this podcast and we're a fan of the story, you have not seen Superman the movie, we encourage you to go still see it, even though we've talked about most of it.
Everybody knows about it. So I don't think we gave any spoilers away.
No, I don't.
It was made in 1978, almost half a century ago.
I mean, it's so visual, that movie. Like, if you're listening to this for some reason and you've made it to this part of the podcast and you still haven't seen the movie, it's still, even if we've talked about the things that have happened, it's still worth a watch. I mean, Joe's seen it 150 times between the two editions. So.
Yes. But who's keeping track?
Yeah. So anyway, so we again, if you have your thoughts about Superman the movie, we'd love to hear from you. However you're listening to this, there's a way to make a comment or leave a note to us. We thank you for listening, and we will talk to you on the next episode.
Bye.